Welcome back, everyone, to the Romans podcast, and we are here again with me, Ollie and Joe to talk about the recent events with Bath City Football Club and National League South as a whole. Of course, we had two games since our last podcast. A lot has actually gone down. We had the Hampton and Richmond game at the weekend. We had the midweek Somerset derby between Weston-super-Mare that we'll get in and talk about a little bit later. Ollie and Joe, would you like to care to introduce yourselves again to the podcast?
Hello. It is me, Ollie. I am extremely nervous and I do not know how to do these things, so I'm just going to leave it over to you, Joe.
I'm Joe. I'm really excited to get going today.
That makes one of us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Anyway, starting off with the Hampton and Richmond game, it's a bit of a difficult one, this one, because out of the three people sitting in this podcast room, I was the only one who was there to witness what was an absolute blockbuster game of the season, let's say, a last-minute Jordan Tillson half volley from the edge of the box, which was absolutely unreal. And I think the only real thing that these two have seen from that game was indeed that goal, because of Hampton and Richmond not yet to post the highlights to their YouTube channel, which is an interesting topic of discussion. But we'll start off. Joe, you obviously saw the goal. What did you think when you saw it?
I've not just seen it, I've seen it again and again and again. What a banger. Absolutely loved that. He caught that so beautifully. First time as well. It really does go to show that in this league, especially, if you just hit it and it has a lot of good power on it, keepers aren't Premier League quality. You can score a good goal, and I actually think that we should be shooting a bit more, because in the game last night, the Weston-super-Mare game, there was a lot of instances, I thought, where we were doing some really good play, especially on the wings, and then we just weren't able to create a chance, or we were trying to work it a bit too much. And actually try hitting that, you might get a goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I was there at that Hampton and Richmond game, and obviously I've seen more than the goal. I saw our first goal as well, which I don't think many people have had the privilege of seeing due to the lack of Beavers TV's media team, which for some reason has massively fallen off this season. I'm not really sure why that is, because we'll get into that a little bit later. But obviously I was there to witness the game from start to finish, and one of the key instances, let's say, was our first goal. It came from a corner. We seem to be quite good at set pieces this season. Jenkins Davis, lifting it into the box, bit of a spillage from the goalkeeper, right across the face of goal. Parcell heads in the rebound. A little bit of a scrappy one on Hampton and Richmond's part, from the goalkeeper especially, but we were there, we were alive. Parcell is always insanely good at getting into those right areas when he needs to from corners. I mean, we've seen it several times this season. We saw it against Totton, he scored a goal. We saw it for Slough, he headed it across the face of goal. Table headed it in. We saw the same thing against Bracknell, he headed it across the face of goal. Windsor headed it in. He seems to have that attacking presence as a centre-back, which we need. He's almost a bit like what Gabriel is for Arsenal in a way. With all of Arsenal's set pieces in the Premier League, Gabriel's always the right time, right place centre-back who just gets his head on it, either gets an assist or a goal, and that's exactly what Kieran Parcell does very well for us. And then, of course, that second goal, again, comes from a set piece. Free kick is delivered in from Jenkins Davis. I think it was Batten who went to try and head it. It gets headed away. Tillson's right on the edge of the box, hits it. One of the cleanest strikes I think I've ever seen. The way it dips, the way it just moves into the goal, right into the top corner. Goalkeeper dives, absolute full stretch for it, can't get it. And I mean, it was absolute limbs in the away end as well. It was insane to be there witnessing it and being there for it. It was, unbelievable.
We saw all the people taking their tops off, swinging their shirts around their
head. Yeah, of course. There was a few videos captured in the stand. A few, obviously you could see it in the background of what Bath City posted to their TikTok account as well of Jordan Tillson's goal. Just the pure glory and pure
just passion,
being in the moment. Yeah, which is just fantastic almost.
Oscar, as the only attendee of that game, could you talk us through the pattern of play and stuff? How was it going beyond the goals?
Well, beyond the goals, I think again it was very much a game where we actually maybe even grew into it as opposed to, ran them rings around them in the first half and then won the game. I think the first half was a very weird one because, we had a lot of the ball and we were, looked like we were creating a lot of chances, but we weren't actually really having many shots at goal or whatever. And I think Hampton and Richmond actually probably had the best chance of the first half. I think they tried to lob Charlie Binns, and Binns tips it over. Again, it's almost like I have to describe it for every audience because right now the highlights still haven't been posted, so it's just what I'm going off by memory here. There was a lob. Binns tips it over the bar. I think there was also a goal line clearance in the first half. A corner came in from Hampton and Richmond. I do think they looked very dangerous from corners.
Yeah.
I think that's very much the same with us as well. I think both teams looked like their main threat was from corners. And Hampton and Richmond, they delivered this corner in. Header came, and I think it was cleared by Parcell on the line. Half time, Hampton and Richmond had the best chances, but it wasn't really a standout team. And then the second half comes, we make a couple of changes. I think Windsor and Beardmore come on at half time. Suddenly, it's a different game. We score right at the beginning of the half. Windsor nearly grabs us a second with a sensational solo run, which actually is another thing that I forgot about. He had an amazing solo run down the wing, which I think he actually got his little knock from in the end. He had to get stretch it off for that. So that was saved, and then Hampton and Richmond grabbed their equaliser. Again, a very good goal. I think that's the only thing that Hampton and Richmond have posted to their socials was their goal. It was a fantastic lob over the keeper into the back of the net, and then obviously you get I think Yeboah comes on for Bath City. We're pushing, we're still trying to find it. Both teams are going for the winner. Really, it was all out for the winner. Charlie Binns again, another insane double save he makes in the added time, and then after that it's Tillson's volley and it's full time. We win the game.
Charlie Binns was playing in the absence of Harvey Wells-Richards due to the birth of his baby.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah. And do we think Charlie did well then?
For sure. I think Harvey, he's had his moments this season, and Charlie has had his moments as well. But the one thing that Harvey was missing this season was some form of competition. And obviously, being a non-league side, being a National League South side, it's very hard to have squad depth. And I think Charlie Binns is the perfect player for that squad depth. He is that competition that Harvey Wells-Richards has, and I have a feeling that's why Harvey Wells-Richards felt like he was in such a rush to get back into the side at Weston yesterday. And I'm not, this is obviously just me just speculating here, but because of how well Charlie Binns played on Saturday, and obviously Harvey Wells-Richards was looking after his new baby. Again, congrats to him for that. But, he probably saw how well Binns was playing and was like, right, I need to get back into this team before my place gets selected. And that's exactly the kind of mentality we want to see from our players. It's fantastic that, Harvey is got the drive, just to get straight back into playing football. And trying to,
And hopefully it does push him to improve certain parts of his game.
I think he is an excellent keeper, and he was our player of the season last season. He might not be at that same level as he was last season, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily he's got worse. I think it's the players around him have got better. I think it is because there was so many times where he'd just be the dying embers of our defence last season, but our defensive football has improved.
And I will say that especially when we went to go see the Bracknell Town game not long ago, when we first saw Charlie in that goalkeeping position, I was kind of like, who's this guy in goal? Where's, everyone was like, where's Harvey? And then you say, all right, let's give him a chance. And Charlie is brilliant, but that shouldn't, like you said, that shouldn't take away from Harvey's ability. They're both just as great as each other. And I feel like when you have that moment where in the team that you're confident in the players, that not only you've got more, like you said, it's more harder to get the depth. You've got good depth in that position, and then all the players are improving. That's a good thing for the team. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
For sure. And that was, that Hampton and Richmond game, that was a positive moment, perhaps the all-time high of the season so far, because I thought the way we played, we certainly deserved the win. I know Hampton and Richmond themselves aren't an amazing team this season, but, a win's a win. It's an unpredictable league. You could beat top of the league and then next lose to bottom of the league. So every win counts, every 3 points counts. And the way we played in that game was fantastic. And that last-minute screamer is exactly what we deserved, if I'm being honest. And I was very happy with that. But, moving on to the Weston-super-Mare game, because obviously you two have actually seen that one. Obviously, the lack of highlights being posted on Hampton and Richmond is an interesting one. We can maybe get into that in a little bit. But first of all, Weston-super-Mare game. Joe, you were there with me yesterday. Describe how you thought the performance on the whole was from that.
Well, it capped off a few days, really a tale of two injury times, because unfortunately we did succumb to Weston-super-Mare and their brilliant striker, who is on
Louis Britton, former loanee at Bath City as well.
Of course.
When he was very young, before he was known of really, and then he went to Bristol Manor Farm. Started banging goals in, and now look at what he's doing for Weston-super-Mare. Fantastic striker. And it's interesting that you say that it's the tale of two injury times, because almost what happened in that Weston-super-Mare game was the complete flip opposite of what happened in Hampton and Richmond, because Hampton and Richmond thought they'd grabbed a late equaliser against us, and then we went and scored the winner after that. We thought we'd grabbed a late equaliser to snatch a point against Weston. Opposite happens, Weston score from the corner. It was a pretty poor goal to concede. I think, if I'm being honest, if I was to sort of pick out a one poor moment from that game yesterday, it would have been how we defended towards the end. We had a point. We should have got that point, and we kind of let it go in the dying embers.
Generally, our momentum was quite good throughout the game. We were playing second place in the league. It was never going to be an easy game, as well as the fact that they are something of a rival for Bath. But we put in a good performance, especially I think in the first half. We were probably the better team. We were getting some great joy, especially down the right-hand side, with Will Jenkins-Davies and Brad Ash.
Scored the equaliser, by the way.
He did, yeah.
Absolutely amazing play.
Weston came out of the gates at half-time much better. They very, very almost scored right at the start of the second half, and they probably should have done when a strike from Britain was spilled by Harvey, and one of their players hit the post somehow from just a metre.
Yeah, I still couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought
I think we all.
I think everyone blinked at that moment and was like, "What just happened?"
Yeah. But then they put on some good pressure. They got their goal. But then I thought we responded really well to that. We steadied the ship. We were coming. We were attacking. We were putting in some good crosses.
I think some of the substitutes that Darren Way made in that game were really helpful as well. I think Manny Yeboah, I can't lie, from the first few games that he played for us, I was a little unsure. I could see he was a little bit rusty and hadn't played for a while. But it's clear that he's been working really hard in training, because when he came on against both Hampton and Richmond and Weston-super-Mare, I thought he was one of our best players. He almost has a presence about him.
He came on immediately after Weston scored, and he definitely helped in us getting back into that game, which was Jenkins-Davies' equaliser. It was a cross from Danny Greenslade, and he was on the end of that. But then, very unfortunately, at the end, Weston, in the 92nd minute, scored the winner. It was poor defending. I don't think we would disagree about that. He was right in front of the keeper, basically on the goal line, and the corner comes in, and Parcells marking him but can't get round. He gets in front of the ball, and it's a very easy tap in. And unfortunately, if you want to get points, especially when you're playing against bigger teams, you have to have the mental capacity to get through those hard times at the end of the game, and you definitely can't be making such poor defensive errors as we did yesterday.
I mean, do you think? I mean, there's also quite a bit of a trend in recent games where Bath really, especially with this game, they fight and fight. Maybe it doesn't go your way the whole game, but at the end you fight, and it's an amazing feeling. We all know. No matter how many games we've attended, we all know that feeling of when Bath, especially, have clutched. It's a beautiful moment. Your vocal cords are no longer intact. Let's just say that. You can feel the blood in your throat. No, anyways. But without getting too graphic, it's an amazing, passionate, lovely feeling. And then, unfortunately, Bath concede, or there's a penalty against us, and all that feeling just goes down.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a continuation of just that? Would you say that is poor defending most of the time, or do we think we have a curse?
I think we do have an element of a curse. It's almost difficult to disagree with that at some point, because we can play so well, right? I get that we get complacent in the final stages. I mean, against Farnborough, we were complacent. We thought we'd scored the winner. We forgot that injury time existed, and then we started getting a little. It wasn't just the fact that we conceded controversial penalty. Controversial penalties besides it. It was how we were playing in those last minutes against Farnborough. They could have easily nicked that game from us several times.
When
I think
it keeps happening in injury time or at the very end of normal time.
Well, I think it's like it's hard to put it. It's like it kind of feels like a curse, but it's also down to complacency in the fact that there'll be some times when we're unlucky, like Hemel game, unlucky, last minute penalty. I don't really think. Again, it's controversially wrong. There could have been a penalty, could have been not been. I'm always been very mixed on that decision, but it's it's a difficult one. It's like can be a curse, but also down to complacency, and like it's easily avoidable in many instances.
Yes, but again, we could have got more from that game. We did have some good chances, and our finishing was not particularly there yesterday. But that's what matters at the end of the day, whether we put those chances away. There was one, I think Brad Ash in the first half, he put it over the bar from not very far out. There was a chance from Rains near the end of the game. And it was these sort of things that at the end of the day come back to haunt you. But after the game, I would say that the Bath fans, we were not that upset. Like, we weren't upset with the team at all. We thought they'd put in a good performance. We were applauding them. It was unfortunate.
It's just bad. Like, it's football, isn't it? I mean, as we were saying, Hampton and Richmond, that's exactly how the Hampton and Richmond fans were feeling when they played us on Saturday. So it's like every football fan goes through that. It's not just Bath who have got this like unfortunate last minute goal, whatever. I mean, there's several teams out there that have been far more unlucky than us this season. There are teams right now in National League South, like Hampton and Richmond, who have lost like about 9 games in 10 or something. And I mean, at least like you look at our form, we were 5 games unbeaten in all competitions before yesterday. It was just unfortunate for the fact we couldn't keep that going. Like, we could be in a lot worse position than what we actually are. We just do get a bit unlucky sometimes, But I mean, moving on to that, obviously Weston-super-Mare posted their highlights yesterday, so you could watch it, Ollie, for the fact that you weren't there. But obviously you two both weren't at the Hampton and Richmond game. And the reason why I had to go into so much detail about that game earlier is because the Hampton and Richmond YouTube channel, Beavers TV, have not posted their highlights for the Bath City game. And it's an interesting one because something like this has happened before. It was the Farnborough away game, where Farnborough played us on the 4th of October and then later uploaded their YouTube highlights almost 10 days late on the 12th of October.
I mean, it's the fact that that it makes it a bit more disappointing as well, because when we were there at the game, I remember when we were swapping sides to go to the other side of the pitch, just think, okay, they're shooting in that direction, let's go. And then we weren't even halfway when you heard the louder cheer, the home cheer, and you're like, oh no, we've just conceded a goal. And then you're obviously you're on a downer. You're never happy when you concede. And then as the game went on, we fought really hard.
Really well. That's not what I'm on about, though, is it? It's like, I'm talking about we're talking about the highlights.
But the thing is, and then this is leading up to the point. It was a victorious feeling at the end when we thought we got that winner, and then we didn't. It was a tie, and then either way, you felt either happy about the fact that we took home a point and we fought, or not. But either way, you wanted to reminisce about that feeling, and when that feeling is delayed for about 10 days, you do kind of go, well, surely it's not hard to put it together. I mean, you never know what they're doing in the game.
I mean, for sure. And I mean, that is very similar to Hampton and Richmond. Like, those were like some of the best last minutes limbs I've ever been in. And it's like, besides the odd angle of like, the Tillson's goal, there was a couple angles. There was one filmed by Ollie as a young fan, and there was one filmed by the Bath media team posted to their TikTok. It's like, besides those 2 angles, like I want to see the professionally shot highlights and, relive that moment. And it's teams like this. I don't know whether it's the fact that it's home bias or like whether or not there's a different reason to it. I did a bit of research into it actually as to why maybe Hampton and Richmond haven't posted their highlights, because they've also still not posted their highlights from yesterday's game where they lost 3-0 to Tunbridge either. And it's out of character for them because they are actually one of the best teams in the league usually at posting highlights. They had highlight coverage for almost every single one of their games last season, and until match day 11 this season, they had posted highlights for every single game, home and away. So I don't know what's happened, whether or not they've had a media team executive leave or whatever, or whether or not they are just stopping posting highlights because of how poor their form's been. It doesn't really make much sense to me, the fact that they were one of the best at posting highlights in the league, and then out of nowhere, these last 2 home games, they've posted nothing. Their last few away games, they posted nothing. It's interesting, but I did do a bit of research into ChatGPT. So they said what might what might explain a pause or delay. So if you or fellow fans haven't seen highlights since match day 11, there are a few plausible reasons. The club might be delaying uploads, perhaps due to resource constraints. Smaller clubs often rely on voluntary or part-time video teams, so that could be a key thing. Maybe the former video highlights creator for Hampton and Richmond now no longer has a partnership with the club, but there's not really been any statement about that, so I'm not sure if that is it.
Don't know.
But you never know. Like how you said, it's football, isn't it? You know, you never know what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Behind the scenes. I mean, I think it's like it makes sense for teams at this level to not post highlights, because I think it was only really recently that like all teams have started doing it. But at the same time, I think like National League is at the level now in English football where they've got enough followers who, you know, have been supporting a team for a various amount of time, move to somewhere else and still want to, you know, connect with the club and stay in good contact with the club and watch all the highlights after. So like, say you lived in Bath for a couple of years, supported Bath City, and then moved to a different country, and you still want to know how the team's doing. It's almost essential that these teams should be posting their highlights for their fans who have, you know, followed the club for so long, put so much money into the team or whatever. And I get this is Hampton and Richmond. It's on them for the fact that they're not posting these highlights, but it's the same for them as well. I mean, even though they lost that game, I'm sure there's several Hampton and Richmond fans or people who have previously supported the club who want to see that video released, and it hasn't been released. And you look at Weston-super-Mare, they released their highlights yesterday. Well, today actually. Well, and the game was yesterday at the time we're filming this podcast. So it's interesting because Weston-super-Mare don't even allow pitch-side filming, and they got their highlights quicker than Hampton and Richmond. So I don't know what's going on there. Like, it surely isn't much effort to film a football game and post it to your YouTube channel.
I mean, I think it's possibly a fact of like uncertainty of like how many people are going to show up a game. They want to make sure that a lot of people are there to make their crowds look
That's a
more
very good point, actually. That is a very good point, because now I'm thinking about it. You look at the current form that this team is in, Hampton and Richmond. They have obviously, we mentioned it earlier, they've lost like 9 and 10, something like that. I don't know what the exact figure is. I should probably get that up now. But because of their losing streak, they might be having less and less numbers. I mean, at that Hampton and Richmond game, there was only about 600, I think there was. And a lot of them was Bath fans, you know. So that actually could be a very good point for the fact that they're not posting highlights because they're wanting to bring more fans to the games again, to watch them again, you know. Like, but I mean, at the same time, to me, it doesn't ring true either, because I feel like actually posting highlights for your team, even when you're losing, actually gives you more brand exposure. So
yeah, and it's an uncertainty, because the thing is with this league, as much as I love this league, as much as I love this team and everything, it does. And this is a sad fact, but it obviously there's no way near. This is obvious. There's no way near as many people that go to a National League game as that people that go to like a Premier League or a Championship game. And and all levels of football want to be that one of like, this is the team, this is the great team. And unfortunately, there's uncertainty with maybe the people that release the video or the people that film the video or just the club in general.
You can still get that sort of exposure, and it can still be a good thing.
It can be, yeah.
So, like, look at Dorking. They have all of their TikTok videos that are watched by a lot of people who aren't following the league whatsoever.
Exactly. It's a good media team that gets you that.
Even when they're losing, and people still enjoy seeing it.
It's also a huge ego boost for the player. Like, if like a player just scored a great goal and he celebrates, and it's an amazing thing not just for him but for his teammates and for the club, and then he wants to remember this and look back on this and show that I was good, I did that, and then the team doesn't promote it, and the team, maybe he thinks he hasn't done well enough for the team, and then that also brings down morale. I mean, that's just a theory, but you know, it's all just a theory. But really, you should be promoting your club. No matter how many people turn up, you should be proud of who you are. No matter what club you are, you should be proud of who you are. And maybe I hope that doesn't go into
It is confusing. I don't know Hampton and Richmond seem like one of those clubs right now. I mean, I just looked up their figures. They have lost 10 games in 11, and that one game that they didn't lose was a 0-0 draw. So, you know, with form like that, you can kind of maybe understand why at that club right now they are so rock bottom that they don't even want to post highlights for it. And like, I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't at the same time for the points that we have raised. That could be the reason. It could not be the reason whatsoever. I mean, I still think the most plausible reason for this is the fact that maybe they had a partnership with a team or like a company or whatever, in which like highlights were more easily covered and posted. Because I mean, last season they had a very similar losing streak when we played them and beat them 5-0, but they still posted highlights then. So I think it's more likely to be the fact that they used to have a partnership with a company that helped post their highlights, and now they don't have that anymore. I think that's probably the reason for it. And hopefully we will see highlights eventually released to that game because I mean, there were cameras at the ground. They certainly filmed it, but they just don't seem to be editing it and posting it. I guess if they did have like a partnership with a company or whatever, then it still doesn't stop you from editing your own highlights and posting it.
No, I mean, I'll tell you what, Oscar, I'll make you bet right now. I'll give you a quid, right? I'll shake your hand on this. If those highlights come out on a day that Hampton and Richmond then play. So they're playing another team, and then the highlights come out on that day.
There's a... Maybe. We'll see. I mean, because they still haven't posted their highlights yesterday from Tunbridge game either, and they lost that one by even more than they did against us.
The funniest situation would be if they released them before we released this podcast.
Yeah,
that might happen, and there'll be like an ultimate like. Okay.
If they do, well, we're filming
that
this.
Ollie guy got it wrong, didn't he?
We're filming this on Wednesday, 6 p.m, 26th of November. So the highlights at this current point are not out on their YouTube channel. So yeah, I mean, we've got about 5 or so minutes left of the podcast for today. We did want to discuss one more thing, just a brief one, and it's actually not in relation to Bath City, but it is in relation to clubs in the league. And I mean, I guess you could in some ways link it to Bath City. Obviously, that weekend that Bath City played Hampton and Richmond in National League South, there was also a game between Torquay United and Eastbourne Borough, two teams that did in fact make playoffs last season. Eastbourne Borough got to, I think they finished maybe 3rd or 4th, and then Torquay United finished 2nd. So, you know, from last season standards, this would be a fixture that would be very close, very tightly fought, title race, you know. Eastbourne Borough this season, I don't know what is going on with them, but they are now rock bottom 24th. I think Chippenham have overtaken them. I mean, they're either 24th or 23rd.
Goal difference,
yeah, on goal difference, yeah. So they are now 24th. They actually made a recent switch to full-time, which could be the reason for it. They've had a new owner that came in the start of last season, had a very good season in his first season, but there's something really rotten to the core about that club at the moment, and they released a club statement after a 7-0 loss in that game against Torquay. A game that, you know, last season would be a very tightly fought, as I said, draw or narrow win for either side. A 7-0 loss, and they had to release a club statement about, you know, abuse aimed at players, staff, and their club. And it's just like, I guess the overall question here is, how far is too far for fans in this league to, you know, be complaining? Because I guess on one side of the argument, these fans have travelled. I mean, Torquay, Eastbourne, it's not a close journey. These fans have travelled like a long way to see their team lose 7-0, and then they also got their match tickets refunded. I think that actually made like quite a high news story, that the fact that Eastbourne refunded the match tickets. Some people were saying that the coach tickets should have been refunded as well. I don't know if they would, but the owner has also held like a sort of question and answer for the manager on Friday as well. So they are really tackling, like, this has been like a big thing, because I guess it's just the astronomical fall off they had from last season to this season, the fact that they've now lost 7-0 at Torquay. And I guess, like, as I was saying, on one side of the argument, you got all these fans that have travelled this far, but on the other side of the argument, like, this is National League South, right? And anything can happen, right? You can be, you know, top one season, you can be bottom another season. And that's very much how Bath City have kind of been. Like, you know, we were always getting playoffs back in the day. We went through a bit of a patchy era, and we're kind of still trying to work our way out of that. But you're not going to be consistently good in this league. There's going to be several different factors that is going to change it.
They have been very, very poor, though. And especially if you then lose 7-0.
But, I mean, not poor enough to justify abuse towards
No, of course not
staff.
abuse, but you are permitted to want better and to be angry with the players and angry with the manager. It's when it gets personal.
Yes,
That's where you draw the line.
That's the key thing. I think that's what the club statement was about, the fact that it got to a personal level on the managers and players, and they were saying that, this is not something that is going to help the club in any way, and they're completely right for that, because there is absolutely nothing to justify abuse to your own team, your own managers, your own players, who all probably live in your town, by the way. You're basically making personal things about them, and they're just trying to play football. They want to win as much as the fans do, really. So, but the fans saying this is not making it much.
Well, that's probably, they probably don't feel like the players do want to win as much as they do.
And at the same time, when you're watching a game, the mentality, the thought that should go in your head is, this is just a game. No one's dying it. No one's getting injured, no, no one's dying it. This is not a serious thing. This is just a game. And when you have people, like you said, Oscar, threatening people, especially a lot of the Bath team are from Bath as well. You're threatening someone that could live not that far away from you just because they forgot to do something. And you should never make it personal. These people have their own personal lives. Yeah, it's a case when you draw the line between sport and when you draw the line between sport as a
people
game,
take it too far.
And then threatening.
Positive reinforcement. That is the way forward.
It is.
Yeah. And on that note, we will cap off this podcast for today. Thank you very much, Joe and Ollie.
All right,
thank you. Join us next week for the Romans podcast. Of course, we've got the Enfield game this weekend, so that'll be a major talking point next week. And we'll see you all very soon. Goodbye.